The pregnancy test clattered into the trash, and Elena watched 3 pink lines disappear beneath crumpled paper towels like they'd never existed. Triplets. She was carrying triplets. For 3 vampire kings who'd declared her barren 6 weeks ago and shoved her out of the palace gates like garbage. Her laugh came out broken. The clinic bathroom was too bright, all fluorescent white and chemical sting, and somewhere down the hall a woman was crying. Elena pressed her forehead against the mirror, her breath fogging the glass. They'd made her take 17 tests before the rejection. 17 times physicians in sterile gloves had whispered to each other while she lay exposed on an exam table, their magic prodding places that felt like violations. 17 times they'd confirmed what the kings feared most. She was human enough that her womb was incompatible. She would never carry a vampire heir, except now she was, 3 of them, and the kingdoms were dying. She'd heard the rumors, even in the human district where she'd been hiding. Whispered in market stalls, scrawled on newspaper headlines. The vampire bloodlines were going extinct. 20 years without a single viable birth. Whole noble houses collapsing into dust. The triplet kings were the last hope. 3 brothers, 1 throne, and a ticking clock that had apparently made them desperate enough to try a bond with a half-human Omega. Right up until they decided she wasn't worth the risk. Elena's phone buzzed against the sink. She didn't need to look to know who it was. Stefan had called 43 times this week. Damon sent letters she burned without opening. Cassian just waited. She could feel him sometimes, in that phantom space where their severed bond still ached, like a rotted tooth she couldn't stop tonguing. The phone buzzed again, then it started ringing. She picked it up. "I told you to stop. Come back." Stefan's voice was raw, stripped of the princely charm that used to make her pulse skip. "Please, we'll talk. We'll figure something out." "You had 6 weeks to figure it out." Elena's free hand drifted to her stomach. Still flat. She had maybe a month before it started to show. "You chose." "We didn't have a choice." His breathing was uneven. "The council, the physicians, the prophecy, there's always a choice." She hung up. Her reflection stared back, too pale, too thin, dark circles carved beneath eyes that used to be brighter. She looked like someone who'd survived something. She supposed she had. Outside, the winter sun was setting, bleeding the sky into shades of purple and gold. Elena pulled her jacket tighter and stepped into the cold, each breath crystallizing in front of her face. The palace loomed in the distance, all black stone and sharp towers clawing at the clouds. She should run, pack what little she had and disappear into the human territories where their power ended. But her feet turned toward the palace anyway, not because she wanted them, because she'd stolen something from the clinic, a file. The one the head physician had been shoving into a locked drawer when Elena stumbled past his office 3 days ago, her name printed across the tab in red ink. She'd broken in last night, read it by flashlight in a bathroom stall while her heart tried to break through her ribs. Subject M. Thorne. Postponed autopsy notes. They'd been planning to dissect her. After the rejection. After the bond broke and she'd collapsed in the throne room, choking on her own blood. The physician had written, "Cause of death, catastrophic bond failure," and scheduled her body for study. Except she hadn't died. She'd crawled out of the palace and survived, and apparently no one thought to check. The file had more. Genetic workups, compatibility matrices. A final note scrawled in handwriting she didn't recognize. Subject may be the last viable carrier in existence. Reconsider rejection. Bloodline extinction imminent without her. They'd known. The physician had told them she could save their entire species, and they'd thrown her out anyway. Elena's nails bit into her palms hard enough to draw blood. The palace gates opened as she approached, not for her, but for a carriage rattling through, all black lacquer and gold trim. Noble families still came to beg the kings for solutions, for elenicals, for anything that might stop their children from crumbling into ash. She slipped through behind it. Inside, the palace was chaos. Servants ran through hallways with frantic energy, their whispers a hissing static. Another house fell last night. They're saying the kings only have months. Someone has to be able to carry... Elena pulled her hood lower and followed the current of panic toward the throne room. The doors were closed, but she could hear voices bleeding through, sharp, desperate, fraying. "Bring her back." That was Cassian, and he sounded destroyed. "I don't care what it takes. Find her." "She won't come." Damon. Cold and factual. "We made sure of that." "Then we drag her back." Stefan. "Bind her. Lock her in the tower. She doesn't get a choice anymore." Elena's blood went cold. "Listen to yourselves," Cassian snapped. "You want to chain the one person who might actually save us? You want to prove we're the monsters she thinks we are? We're dying," Stefan shot back. "All of us. Every vampire in this kingdom. I don't care if she hates us. I don't care if she spits in our faces. She's ours, and we're taking her back." Silence. Then Damon, quiet as a blade. "Agreed." Elena's hand found her stomach. She should have run. Instead, she pushed the doors open. 3 kings turned as one, and the shock on their faces was almost worth it. "You don't have to find me," Elena said softly. "I'm right here." Stefan moved first, vampire fast, crossing the room before she could blink. His hand reached for her, then froze an inch away, like he'd forgotten he wasn't allowed to touch her anymore. "You came back," he whispered. "I did." She smiled, and it was all teeth. "Want to know why?" Damon approached slower, his eyes cataloging every detail, her posture, her scent, the way her jacket hung loose around her frame. His gaze dropped to her stomach. Stopped. "No," he breathed. "Yes," Elena said. Cassian was already moving, falling to his knees in front of her, his hands hovering over her abdomen like she was made of glass and prayer. "How many?" His voice cracked. She let the silence stretch, let them suffer. 3. The word landed like a detonation. Stefan staggered back. Damon went absolutely still. Cassian's hands started shaking. "That's impossible," Damon said. You were infertile?" Elena's laugh was acid. "That's what your physician said, right before they scheduled my autopsy." She pulled the file from her jacket and threw it at his feet. "Turns out I'm the only woman left in your entire kingdom who can carry vampire heirs," she continued. "And you 3 threw me away like I was nothing." Stefan lunged for her, desperation breaking through his control. "Elena, please! Don't!" Her voice cut like winter. "Don't touch me. Don't say my name. Don't pretend you didn't choose this." "We were wrong," Cassian choked out. "God, we were so wrong." "You were cruel," she corrected. "There's a difference." She turned toward the door. Behind her, Damon spoke, and his voice was the sound of an empire falling. "What do you want?" Elena paused, looked back over her shoulder. "I want to watch you beg," she said simply, and walked out. The screaming started before she reached the hallway. The screaming followed her into the hallway like a living thing. Elena's boots clicked against marble, each step measured, deliberate. Behind her, furniture shattered, glass exploded, voices rose in a harmony of rage and grief that would have terrified her 6 weeks ago. Now it just sounded like justice. Her hand stayed pressed to her stomach, a shield and a reminder. The babies hadn't moved yet, not really, but she swore she could feel them anyway. A warmth, a presence, proof that her body had never been the broken thing they'd claimed. "Stop!" The command cracked through the air like a whip. Elena didn't stop. Footsteps thundered behind her, faster than human, and suddenly, Cassian was there, not touching her, not blocking her path, just standing 3 feet away with his hands raised like she was a wild animal he was afraid to spook. "Please," he said. The word came out ragged. She kept walking. He matched her pace, staying in her peripheral vision. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "You asked for forever once." Elena turned a corner, heading toward the servants' exit. "I said yes. You said no. We're done. We were trying to save the kingdom. You were saving yourselves." She didn't look at him. Couldn't. Because if she did, she'd see the face that used to smile at her over breakfast. the man who'd traced her collarbone with his thumb and called her Starlight. Don't rewrite history just because it didn't work out the way you planned. The physician said you couldn't carry. His voice dropped. They showed us charts, genetic markers, 20 different tests that all said the same thing. And you believed them. Elena stopped walking. Her reflection stared back from a darkened window, ghost pale and furious. You didn't even question it. Why would we? Cassian moved closer. Not much. Just enough that she could smell him now, cedar and smoke and something darker underneath. They're the best in the kingdom. They've been serving the royal family for centuries. They were wrong. I know. He sounded gutted. God, Elena, I know. She finally turned to face him. He looked worse up close. Shadows carved deep beneath his eyes, hair uncombed. The pressed perfection he usually wore like armor had crumbled into something raw and desperate. Good. The head physician, she said quietly, wrote in my file that I might be the last viable carrier in the kingdom. He recommended you reconsider the rejection. Cassian's face went blank. He told you, Elena continued, and you threw me out anyway. No. The word came fast, sharp. No, he never said that. He told us you were incompatible, that bonding with you would waste time we didn't have. He lied. Why would he lie? I don't know. Elena's hand tightened over her stomach. Maybe he wanted to see what would happen. Maybe someone paid him. Maybe he just hated half-humans and wanted me gone. Does it matter? Cassian opened his mouth, closed it. Something flickered behind his eyes, cold and lethal. Where is he? His voice had gone quiet. Dangerous. Does it matter? She repeated. Yes. He took a step forward, and this time she didn't move away. Because if he lied, if he cost us you, cost us them, his gaze dropped to her stomach. I'll kill him myself. The babies chose that moment to flutter. Elena gasped, her hand flying to the spot. It was barely anything, just a whisper of movement, but it stole her breath anyway. Cassian noticed. Of course he noticed. Can I? His hand lifted, hovering in the space between them. No. He flinched like she'd struck him. You don't get to touch them, Elena said. You don't get to feel them move or hear their heartbeats or pretend you care now that they're convenient. Convenient? His laugh was broken glass. You think this is convenient? Elena, we've been falling apart without you. The bond didn't just sever, it rotted. I wake up choking on it. Stefan hasn't fed in 3 weeks. Damon broke every mirror in his wing because he couldn't stand to see himself. That's not my problem, isn't it? He moved closer still. And she could feel the heat coming off him now, the barely restrained need. You're carrying our children, our heirs, the only thing standing between our entire species and extinction. How is that not your problem? Because you made it not my problem the second you cast me out. Her voice shook. I don't owe you anything. Not my body, not my babies, not my forgiveness. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Then what are you asking for? Cassian's hand finally dropped. A chance. You had one. Another. Elena laughed, cold and sharp. Why? So you can reject me again the second something better comes along? So you can use me as an incubator and then throw me away once I've served my purpose? So we can fix this. His eyes burned. So we can prove we're not the monsters you think we are. You can't fix this. She stepped back. Some things stay broken. Behind them, the throne room doors slammed open. Stefan and Damon spilled into the hallway, both of them looking feral. Stefan's shirt was torn, buttons scattered. Damon had blood on his knuckles. They stopped when they saw her. The air went electric. Elena's instincts screamed at her to run, but she forced herself still. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her afraid. You're still here, Stefan said. He sounded surprised. I'm leaving. No. Damon moved fast, positioning himself between her and the exit. You're not. Cassian turned on his brother. Move. She's carrying our heirs. Damon didn't budge. She's not walking out of this palace until we have answers. She's a person, Cassian snapped. Not a prisoner. She stopped being just a person the second she got pregnant with the future of our kingdom. Elena's blood iced over. Excuse me? Damon finally looked at her, and his expression was pure calculation. You want us to beg? Fine. I'll beg. You want us to grovel? I'll get on my knees right now, but you're not leaving with those children. Watch me. She tried to push past him. His hand caught her wrist. Not hard. Not painful. But immovable. Let go, she said. I can't. His thumb pressed against her pulse point, and she felt him counting her heartbeat. You're the only chance we have. The only chance our people have. You can hate us. You can make us suffer. But you can't ask us to let you walk away with the last hope for our entire species. Those aren't hopes. Elena's voice went deadly quiet. They're my babies. They're ours too. You gave up that right. We were wrong. Stefan joined them, flanking her other side. We know we were wrong. We know we hurt you. But this is bigger than us. Bigger than what we did. Thousands of vampires are dying, Elena. Children are being born and crumbling to ash within hours. Families are watching their legacies disappear. We're going extinct. And somehow that's my responsibility? Yes. Damon's grip tightened fraction. Because you're the only one who can stop it. The babies moved again, stronger this time. Elena's free hand covered the spot, protective. What if I say no? What if I tell you I'd rather watch your kingdom burn than give you what you want? Silence. Then Cassian, soft and broken. Then we burn. She looked at him. He meant it. She could see it in his eyes. The resignation. The acceptance. But we'll still beg you to stay, he continued. We'll still try everything we can to change your mind. Because those babies deserve better than growing up with a father who never fought for them. 3 fathers, Stefan corrected. His hand lifted, hovering near her shoulder but not touching. 3 fathers who were idiots, who believed the wrong people, who made the worst mistake of their lives and have been paying for it every second since. Pretty words. Elena's throat tightened. You're good at those. They're true words. Cassian moved closer, close enough that she could feel his breath. Ask us anything. Test us. We'll prove it. Fine. She looked at Damon. Let go of my wrist. He hesitated. Now, she said, or this conversation is over. His fingers opened slowly, reluctantly. Her wrist slipped free, and she could see the effort it cost him, the way his hand shook before he fisted it at his side. Better, she said. Now back up, all of you, 5 feet. They obeyed. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt hollow. Elena rubbed her wrist, even though he hadn't hurt her. The phantom heat of his touch lingered, mixing with the cedar smoke scent of Cassian and the sharp ozone that always clung to Stefan. Her body remembered them. Even after everything, it still recognized their scents, like home. She hated that. I'll stay, she said finally. All 3 of them went still. But not for you, she continued. Not because you asked, or because I forgive you, or because I believe anything you're saying right now. Then why? Damon asked. Elena's hand settled over her stomach. Because they deserve to know their fathers, even if their fathers are bastards who don't deserve them. Stefan made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. And because, she added colder now, if I'm going to make you suffer, I need to be close enough to watch. Fine. Cassian's voice was steady, despite the grief bleeding through. Whatever you need, whatever it takes. What I need, Elena said, is for you to understand something. She looked at each of them in turn. I'm not doing this for your kingdom. I'm not doing this to save your species. I'm doing this for them. Her hand pressed harder against the babies. And the second you forget that, the second you treat me like an incubator instead of a person, I'm gone. I don't care if I have to crawl through fire to get out. Are we clear? Crystal, Damon said. Good. She stepped around him, heading back toward the throne room. Then somebody show me to a room. I'm exhausted. Behind her, she heard Stefan whisper something that sounded like thank God. She didn't turn around, didn't let them see the tears starting to burn behind her eyes. Because the truth was, she'd just trapped herself. Walked right back into the palace that nearly killed her, with 3 men who'd already proven they'd choose duty over her heart. And the worst part? Some broken, stupid piece of her was glad. The room they gave her was in the East Wing. Her old room. Elena stood in the doorway, her hand still on the handle, staring at furniture she'd picked out 3 months ago when she'd actually believed in forever. The 4-poster bed with its deep blue canopy. The writing desk by the window where she used to leave notes for Cassian to find. The bookshelf Stefan had built himself, crooked and earnest, and filled with stories he thought she'd love. They hadn't touched anything. Dust coated every surface like snow. We kept it exactly how you left it, Damon said from behind her. She didn't turn around. Why? In case you came back. I wasn't supposed to come back. Her voice came out flat. I was supposed to be dead, remember? Catastrophic bond failure. That's what the autopsy report said. He was quiet for a long moment. We didn't know about that. Didn't you? Now she did turn, and the look on his face almost made her regret the question. Almost. Your head physician scheduled my body for study. You're telling me he did that without your knowledge? Yes. The word was granite. I'm telling you that if I'd known he declared you dead, if I'd known he was planning to cut you open, I would have killed him before you left the palace grounds. How noble. Elena stepped into the room, her boots leaving prints in the dust. Too bad you were too busy casting me out to notice. Damon followed her inside. The door stayed open, but his presence filled the space anyway. All controlled power and barely restrained violence. She'd forgotten how much room he took up, how his scent could saturate the air until she tasted it on her tongue. The physician will be dealt with, he said. I've already sent guards to find him. And then what? She trailed her fingers along the writing desk, watching dust particles dance in the lamplight. You execute him? Pin all your guilt on one man and pretend that fixes everything? It's a start. It's a cop-out. Elena turned to face him fully. He didn't force you to reject me. He gave you an excuse and you took it. Own that. Damon's jaw tightened. I am owning it. By hunting down a scapegoat? By standing here and letting you eviscerate me. His eyes burned. By accepting that I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too much of a coward to trust what I felt over what I was told. The words landed between them like stones. Elena's throat tightened. Don't. Don't what? Don't try to make this romantic. Her hands curled into fists. Don't stand there and pretend you're the tortured hero who made a tragic mistake. You didn't just break my heart, Damon. You broke me. I bled out on your throne room floor while you watched, and you didn't even check if I was still breathing before you had the guards drag me out. His face went white. That's not what? She stepped closer, anger propelling her forward. Not true? Were you not standing right there when I collapsed? Did you not vote with your brothers to sever the bond? I did. His voice cracked. I did all of that. And I've been living in that throne room ever since, watching you bleed over and over every time I close my eyes. Good. The word came out vicious. I hope it never stops. Something crashed in the hallway outside. Both of them froze. Raised voices filtered through the open door, sharp and escalating. You can't just lock her in there. That was Cassian, furious. I'm not locking her anywhere. Stefan sounded defensive. I'm posting guards to make sure she's safe. From what? Us? From herself. A pause. She tried to leave once already. What's stopping her from trying again the second we turn our backs? Elena's blood went cold. She was moving before she could think, pushing past Damon into the hallway where Cassian and Stefan stood toe-to-toe. 2 guards flanked her doorway, stone-faced and armed. What? She said quietly. Is this? Stefan turned, and the guilt on his face told her everything. Protection. I don't need protection. You're carrying the future of our kingdom. He gestured to the guards. We can't risk something happening to you. Or risk me running, she corrected. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're afraid I'll change my mind. Can you blame us? His voice rose. You hate us. You said it yourself. You're only staying for the babies. What's stopping you from deciding they're better off away from here? My word. She stepped closer, letting him see the fury in her eyes. I said I'd stay. I meant it. But if you post guards on my door like I'm a prisoner, that changes. We're not trying to imprison you. Then what are you trying to do? She looked at the guards, back at Stefan. Because from where I'm standing, this looks an awful lot like a cage. It's a precaution, Damon said from behind her. She spun on him. You knew about this. I suggested it. The betrayal hit harder than it should have. Of course you did. Someone tried to kill you once already, Damon continued, his voice maddeningly calm. Or did you forget that the physician who lied about your fertility also declared you dead and scheduled your autopsy while you were still breathing? Elena's stomach dropped. What? He wanted you gone. Cassian joined them, forming a loose triangle around her. The lies weren't random, Elena. They were targeted. Someone paid him to make sure you couldn't bond with us, and when that didn't work fast enough, they tried to finish the job. You don't know that. We know he ran. Stefan's hands flexed. The second we sent guards to find him, he disappeared. Cleared out his office, his home, everything. That's not the behavior of an innocent man. Maybe he was scared. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Maybe he knew what you'd do to him. Or maybe he was covering his tracks. Damon moved closer. Not touching, but close enough that she felt surrounded. Either way, until we find him and figure out who he was working for, you're not safe. The guards stay. No. Elena's voice cut through the space. The guards go, or I do. You're being unreasonable. I'm being human. She looked at each of them. You want me to stay? You want me to trust that this time will be different? Then prove it. Get rid of the guards. Let me have one single thing in this palace that's mine and mine alone. Silence stretched. Then Stefan quietly. What if something happens? Then something happens. Elena's hand found her stomach again. I've survived worse than whatever you're afraid of. Not while carrying our children. They're my children too. Her voice dropped to something dangerous. And I won't raise them in a prison, even a gilded one. So you decide right now. Do you trust me, or don't you? The three kings exchanged looks. Some wordless communication passed between them, the kind that came from sharing blood and a throne and centuries of learning each other's tells. Finally, Damon nodded to the guards. Leave. They hesitated. Now, he said. The guards bowed and retreated down the hallway, their footsteps fading into silence. Elena released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Thank you, she said, and hated how genuine it sounded. Don't thank us for basic decency. Cassian ran a hand through his hair. That's a pretty low bar. It's the bar you set. He flinched. Good. Elena turned back toward her room, exhaustion finally catching up with her. The babies were quiet now, settled, but she could feel them anyway. A weight, a promise. We'll have dinner sent up, Damon said. You need to eat. I'm not hungry. The babies need you to eat. His voice softened fraction. Please. She paused in the doorway, looked back at him. He looked wrecked. They all did. Some petty part of her was glad. Fine, she said. But I'm eating alone. I don't want company. Understood. She started to close the door. Elena. Stefan's voice stopped her. What? I know you don't believe us. He stepped forward, eyes red-rimmed and desperate. I know we don't deserve your trust or your forgiveness or your time. But those babies? They're already the most important thing in my life, and I haven't even met them yet. So whatever you need, whatever will make you feel safe here, just tell us. We'll do it. Anything? She asked. Anything. Then leave me alone. She met his gaze. Stop trying to fix this. Stop acting like we're going to be some happy family just because I'm pregnant. We're not. We're 3 men who destroyed a woman, and the woman who stuck with them because her children deserve better than she got. That's it. Stefan's face crumpled. Elena, good night. She shut the door. The lock clicked into place. On the other side, she heard them standing there, breathing, waiting. Then footsteps, slow and reluctant, retreating down the hall. Elena pressed her back against the door and slid down until she was sitting on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest as much as her barely there bump would allow. The tears came fast and hot and silent. Because the truth was, she didn't want to be alone. She wanted Cassian to hold her while she cried. She wanted Stefan to make her laugh until she forgot why she was hurting. She wanted Damon to make her feel safe in a world that kept trying to kill her. She wanted the bond back. The one they'd severed. The one that used to hum between them like music, connecting her to them in ways that went deeper than touch or words. Now there was just emptiness. And 3 babies growing in that emptiness. Proof that her body had bonded even if they'd refused to. Elena's hand splayed over her stomach. I'm sorry, she whispered to them. I'm sorry your dads are idiots. I'm sorry I can't just forgive them and make this easy. I'm sorry you're stuck in the middle of this mess. The babies fluttered in response. She closed her eyes and let herself imagine, just for a second, what it would feel like if things were different. If the rejection had never happened. If she'd woken up this morning in the bed behind her with 3 men who loved her, touching her stomach with wonder instead of desperation. If they'd chosen her. But they hadn't. And no amount of pretty words or posted guards or midnight conversations was going to change that. A knock sounded at the door. I said I wanted to be alone, Elena called out. I know. Cassian's voice filtered through the wood. I'm not asking to come in. I brought food. I'll leave it out here. She heard something being set down, footsteps retreating, then stopping. For what it's worth, he said quietly. I'm sorry, not just for the rejection, for all of it. For not fighting harder, for believing them instead of you. For not checking if you were breathing before they dragged you out. Elena pressed her hand to her mouth. I know sorry isn't enough, he continued. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I need you to hear it anyway. You deserved better than what we gave you. You deserved everything. Silence. Then his footsteps, fading for real this time. Elena sat there until her legs went numb and the tears dried on her cheeks. Eventually, she stood, opened the door. The hallway was empty, but a tray sat on the floor. Soup, still steaming. Fresh bread, a pot of tea and a cup already poured. Tucked under the plate was a note in handwriting she recognized. We'll do better, I promise. See? She picked up the tray and carried it inside, closed the door again. Sat at the writing desk and ate in silence while dust motes danced in the lamplight, and her children grew in the space where a bond used to be. And somewhere deep in her chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope began to crack through the ice. She crushed it before it could spread. The soup was still warm on her tongue when the lights went out. Not just in her room, everywhere. The lamp on her desk died mid-flicker. The hallway beyond her door went black. Even the moon seemed to vanish behind clouds, plunging the palace into a darkness so complete that Elena couldn't see her own hand in front of her face. She set down her spoon carefully, listening. Silence. Then distantly, shouting. Her door burst open. Elena jumped, her chair scraping back, but she couldn't see who it was. Just a shape, large and fast. Moving toward her through the black. Don't scream, Damon's voice. It's me. What's happening? Someone cut the main power. His hand found her arm, warm and solid. The backup generators aren't responding. The whole palace is down. More footsteps pounded down the hallway. 2 more shapes appeared in her doorway, backlit by nothing. Is she safe? Stefan. I've got her. Damon's grip on her arm tightened. Where's Cassian? Checking the perimeter. Stefan moved into the room, and Elena felt, rather than saw him approach. The guards are mobilizing, but whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Every failsafe is offline. The physician, Elena said. Her heart was hammering. You think he came back? I think someone wants you vulnerable. Damon pulled her closer. And they picked the perfect time to try. A crash echoed from somewhere below them, glass shattering, more shouting. We need to move her, Stefan said. Now. Move me where? Elena tried to pull away from Damon, but his hold was immovable. I'm not going anywhere until someone tells me what's actually going on. There's a safe room in the North Tower. Damon was already moving, dragging her with him. Reinforced walls, independent power supply, enough provisions to last weeks if necessary. You want to lock me in a tower. Her voice rose. Are you hearing yourself right now? I want to keep you alive. By trapping me? By protecting you. He stopped abruptly and she collided with his back. His free hand came up, pressing against her lips. Quiet. Elena froze. Footsteps. Coming from the stairwell ahead. Too light to be guards. Too deliberate to be panicked servants. Stefan moved past them, silent as smoke. She heard the whisper of a blade being drawn. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice, female and cold. She's supposed to be in the East Wing. Maybe she moved. A second voice, male. Check the study. The Kings will have taken her somewhere secure by now. Then we find where. A pause. The client wants proof she's dead before sunrise. No body, no payment. Elena's blood turned to ice. Damon's hand left her mouth and found her waist, pulling her back against him. She could feel his heart beating against her spine, too fast, barely controlled. Stefan's silhouette shifted in the darkness ahead. Then there was movement, fast and brutal, a choked-off scream, the wet sound of a blade finding flesh. Bodies hit the floor. Clear, Stefan said quietly. But there will be more. How many? Damon asked. Enough that they cut the power to the entire palace. Cassian's voice came from behind them, and Elena spun to find him emerging from a side hallway. Blood spattered his shirt. I counted 6 on the grounds, probably double that inside. They're hunting her, Stefan said. Then we make sure they don't find her. Cassian crossed to Elena, his hands hovering over her shoulders before pulling back. Can you run? I'm pregnant, not broken. That's not what I asked. She met his eyes in the darkness, or where she thought his eyes were. Yes, I can run. Good. He turned to his brothers. The safe room is compromised. If they know the palace layout well enough to kill the power, they know about the tower. Then where? Damon demanded. The catacombs. Cassian started moving, gesturing for them to follow. The old tunnels beneath the palace. No one's used them in decades. They won't think to look there. Those tunnels collapsed in the last earthquake, Stefan protested. Only the east section. The rest are still intact. Cassian glanced back. It's not ideal, but it's better than standing here arguing while assassins close in. Another crash. Closer this time. Voices rising in the darkness. Move, Damon said. They moved. Cassian led them through hallways Elena had never seen, down servants' stairs that twisted and narrowed until she had to feel her way along the walls. Damon kept one hand on her back, steadying her when she stumbled. Stefan brought up the rear, his footsteps silent but present. The air grew colder as they descended. Damper. The smell of stone and old earth replaced the palace's usual incense. Here, Cassian stopped at what looked like a solid wall. His hands moved over the surface, finding some hidden mechanism. Stone ground against stone, and a section of wall swung inward, revealing a passage that exhaled dust and decay. You're joking, Elena said. I'm really not. He ducked inside. Come on. She hesitated. Damon's hand pressed against her lower back. I'll be right behind you. That's not reassuring. It's the best I can offer. Elena took a breath and stepped into the passage. The darkness here was absolute, suffocating. She put one hand on the wall and kept moving, following the sound of Cassian's breathing ahead of her. Behind them, the stone door ground shut. Keep going, Cassian said. There's a chamber about 50 feet down. We can rest there. Rest? Stefan's voice echoed off stone. We need to be securing the palace, finding out who sent those assassins. We need to keep her alive, Cassian shot back. Everything else is secondary. The kingdom can wait. Damon's voice was final. Stefan, he's right. If she dies, the kingdom dies with her. We stay with her until we know it's safe. Elena wanted to argue, wanted to tell them she wasn't their responsibility, that they should be out there protecting their people instead of babysitting her in a tomb. But one of the babies kicked, sharp and insistent, and the words died in her throat. They reached the chamber Cassian had mentioned. It was slightly wider than the tunnel, tall enough to stand in. The air was stale but breathable. There should be supplies, Cassian said. She heard him moving, searching. My father used to store emergency provisions down here. If they're still good. A match flared. The sudden light made Elena flinch. Cassian's face appeared in the glow, all sharp angles and shadows. He touched the match to an old torch mounted on the wall, and fire caught, spreading warm light through the chamber. It was smaller than she'd thought, maybe 10 feet across. Stone walls carved with symbols she didn't recognize. A few crates stacked in the corner, their wood warped with age, and no other exits. We're trapped, she said. We're hidden, Damon corrected. He moved to the crates, prying one open. Inside were blankets, sealed containers of water, dried rations. No one knows about these tunnels except us. The assassins knew about the safe room. They had inside information, Stefan said. He was pacing the small space like a caged animal. Someone in the palace is working with them, someone who knows our protocols. Then how do you know they don't know about this? Elena hugged herself, suddenly cold despite the torch. How do you know we're not just sitting here waiting for them to find us? Because my father never wrote it down. Cassian crouched by the crates, pulling out blankets. He showed me these tunnels when I was 10 years old. Made me memorize every turn. Told me they were for emergencies only, and that I should never tell anyone about them. Not even the council. You told your brothers. Years later, after he died. He stood holding out a blanket. You're shaking. Elena looked down. He was right. Her whole body was trembling. She took the blanket, wrapping it around her shoulders. The babies were moving now, both of them, like they could sense her fear. Hey! Cassian stepped closer. Look at me. She did. His eyes were dark in the torchlight, but there was something soft there, something that looked almost like the man she'd fallen in love with. You're safe, he said quietly. I promise. We're not letting anyone hurt you. You already did. The words came out before she could stop them. Cassian's face spasmed with pain, but he didn't look away. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. But right now, in this moment, you're safe. Can you trust me on that? Just that? Elena wanted to say no, wanted to throw his promise back in his face and remind him that his word meant nothing. But she was tired, so tired, and the babies were quiet now, settled. And some treacherous part of her did feel safe despite everything. Fine, she whispered. Just that. He nodded and stepped back. Damon had laid out more blankets on the floor, creating a makeshift bed. You should rest. We'll keep watch. I'm not tired. You're exhausted. Stefan finally stopped pacing. We can see it. When's the last time you actually slept? Elena tried to remember. Before the clinic? Before the phone calls? I don't know, she admitted. Then sleep now. Damon gestured to the blankets. Please. For them, if not for you. She hated that he was right. Hated that her legs were shaking and her eyes were burning, and every part of her was screaming for rest. Elena crossed to the makeshift bed and lowered herself down carefully. The stone floor was hard even through the blankets, but it was better than standing. The three kings arranged themselves around her, not close enough to touch, but forming a loose triangle that put her in the center, protecting her, or trapping her. She couldn't tell which. What if they find us? She asked into the silence. They won't, Cassian said. But if they do? Then they go through us first. Damon's voice was flat, certain. And I promise you, they won't survive that. Stefan drew his blade, the metal singing softly. Get some rest, Elena. We've got you. She wanted to argue, wanted to stay awake and alert and ready to run, but her eyes were already closing. The last thing she felt before sleep took her was the phantom warmth of 3 sets of eyes watching over her in the darkness. And for the first time since the rejection, she didn't feel alone. She hated that most of all. She woke to the sound of breaking. Not stone or glass, something worse. Crying. Elena's eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the torchlight that had dimmed to embers. Her body ached from the hard floor, and the babies were pressing against her bladder with increasing insistence. But the sound pulled her fully awake. Someone was crying, trying not to, but failing. She turned her head. Stefan sat against the far wall, his knees drawn up, face buried in his hands. His shoulders shook with the effort of staying quiet. Cassian crouched beside him, one hand on his brother's shoulder, murmuring something too low for Elena to hear. Damon stood at the tunnel entrance, his back to them, every line of his body rigid with tension. Elena pushed herself up carefully. The blanket slipped from her shoulders. All 3 of them noticed immediately. Stefan's head snapped up. And even in the dying light, she could see his face was wrecked, eyes red and swollen, cheeks wet. Sorry, he said roughly, swiping at his face. I didn't mean to wake you. What's wrong? The question came out softer than she intended. Nothing. He tried to smile. It looked like it hurt. Go back to sleep. Stefan, Cassian's voice held a warning. She doesn't need to hear this. I'm right here, Elena said, and I'm awake. So either tell me what's happening or stop crying loud enough to wake me up. Stefan laughed, wet and broken. There she is, the woman who told me to go to hell in 17 different ways before breakfast. I can make it 18 if you keep deflecting. He shook his head, but something in his expression crumbled. I failed you. I know. No. He pushed himself up, crossing the small space to kneel in front of her. Not touching, but close enough that she could see every line of devastation on his face. I mean, I failed you before the rejection. Before everything went wrong. I knew something was off with the physician's tests. I could feel it, but I ignored it because it was easier to believe him than to fight my brothers. Elena's chest tightened. Stefan. I'm the youngest, he continued, words tumbling out like he'd been holding them back too long. I've spent my entire life deferring to Damon and Cassian. They're older, stronger, smarter. They've ruled longer. So when they said we had to trust the physician, that we couldn't risk the kingdom on a feeling, I agreed. I let them make the choice for me. You voted to reject me. Her voice came out flat. You had a choice. And you made it. I know. His hands flexed like he wanted to reach for her but knew better. And I've hated myself for it every second since, but that's not even the worst part. There's a worse part? I was relieved. The words came out strangled. When the physician said you were infertile, when the council voted for rejection, part of me was relieved because it meant I didn't have to choose between you and them. Between love and duty, the decision was made for me, and I could pretend it wasn't my fault. Elena stared at him. But it was my fault, Stefan whispered. I could have fought harder, could have demanded more tests, could have told them I didn't care what the physician said. I loved you enough to defy them. I just wasn't brave enough to actually do it. The silence that followed felt like a living thing. Cassian stood slowly, his jaw working. We all failed her, Stefan. You're not special. At least you two had reasons. Stefan's voice broke. Damon was protecting the kingdom. You were protecting the bloodline. I was a coward. That's it. That's my excuse. Stop. Damon finally turned from the tunnel entrance. His face was carved from stone, but his eyes burned. You're not the only coward in this room. Damon, Cassian warned. No. He crossed to them, each step deliberate. If we're confessing sins, let's do it properly. He stopped in front of Elena, looking down at her with an expression she couldn't read. I knew the physician was lying, he said. The words dropped like stones into water. Elena's breath caught. What? Not for certain, but I suspected. Damon's hands curled into fists at his sides. The numbers didn't add up. His explanations kept shifting, and the way he looked at you, like you were something contaminated, something that needed to be removed. He paused. I've spent centuries learning to read people. It's how you survive as a king, and everything about him screamed deception. Then why? Elena's voice shook. Why did you vote to reject me if you knew? Because I was afraid. The admission seemed to cost him. The kingdom is dying, Elena, not just struggling. Dying. We have maybe 5 years before the last of our people crumble to dust. 5 years to produce an heir who can stabilize the bloodline and reverse the decay. So you threw away your best chance? She pushed herself to her feet, anger giving her strength. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense if you're terrified of being wrong. Damon met her gaze. If the physician was lying, if you were fertile, then bonding with you was our salvation. But if I was wrong, if my instincts were off and you really couldn't carry, then we'd waste months, maybe years, on a bond that would ultimately fail. We didn't have that time. So you chose the safe option. Elena's laugh was bitter. You chose to believe the liar because it gave you permission to keep looking. Yes. He didn't flinch from it. I chose certainty over hope, and it was the worst decision of my life. He's not exaggerating. Cassian moved closer, forming a loose circle around her with his brothers. Damon hasn't slept since the rejection, hasn't fed. He spends every night in the throne room where you collapsed, just sitting there, staring at the place where you bled. Stop. Damon's voice went hard. No. Cassian turned on him. She deserves to know what her absence cost us, what our choice cost us. It doesn't matter. Damon's control was fracturing. Knowing we suffered doesn't undo what we did. But it might help her understand why we're so desperate to make this right. Cassian looked at Elena. You asked earlier why we kept your room exactly as you left it. It's because Damon goes there every day, sits at your desk, touches your things like he's trying to remember what it felt like when you were still here. Cassian. Damon's voice dropped to something dangerous. Enough. It's not enough. Cassian's voice rose. None of it is enough. We broke her, and now we're asking her to trust us with her children, with her life. And she has no reason to believe anything we say, because we already proved we'll choose wrong when it matters most. Then what do you want me to do? Damon exploded. Bleed for her? I already am. Beg? I have been. There is nothing I can give her that will undo what I took away. You could start with the truth. Elena's voice cut through their argument. All of it. Not just the parts that make you look tortured and regretful. 3 pairs of eyes fixed on her. You want to know why I'm really here? She continued. It's not because I believe you've changed. It's not because I think you deserve a second chance. It's because I read my medical file, and I know what I am. She pulled the crumpled papers from her pocket, the ones she'd been carrying since the clinic. I'm not just fertile, she said, holding them up. I'm the only viable carrier left in your entire species. My genetics, my half-human biology, something about it bypasses whatever is causing the vampire bloodlines to fail. I can carry vampire children when no one else can. Stefan's face went white. The physician knew. The physician definitely knew. Elena's hand tightened on the papers. He noted it in my file, wrote that bonding with me would not only give you heirs, it would potentially save every vampire bloodline if my genetic markers could be studied and replicated. Then why would he lie? Cassian demanded. Why would he tell us you were infertile if you were the answer to everything? I don't know. Elena's voice dropped. But I do know that someone paid him to make sure I never bonded with you. Someone who wanted your bloodline to die. And I know that the same someone sent assassins here tonight to finish what the rejection started. The implications hung in the air like smoke. We have an enemy, Damon said slowly. Someone powerful enough to bribe the head royal physician, someone who benefits from our extinction. The other kingdoms? Stefan's eyes went wide. If we fall, our territories, our resources, everything gets divided up among them. It's not just political, Cassian added. If we die without heirs, the Vampire Council collapses. Every noble house will go to war trying to claim power. It'll be chaos. And someone wants that chaos. Elena's hand drifted to her stomach. Someone wants it badly enough to kill me, and the last hope your species has. Silence. Then Damon, quiet and lethal. Then we make sure they fail. How? Stefan asked. We're trapped in a tunnel while assassins hunt the palace. The physician is gone. We don't even know who hired him. We start by keeping her alive. Damon crossed to Elena, stopped just close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off him. And then we find out who wants her dead and we make them regret ever learning her name. Poetic, Elena said, but I'm more concerned about the part where we're trapped underground with no food, limited water, and assassins who know we're somewhere in this palace. The tunnels connect to the old catacombs, Cassian said. There's an exit that comes up outside the palace grounds, about a mile into the forest. If we can reach it, we can get you somewhere safe while we deal with the threat. No. Elena shook her head. I'm not running again. You're not running. You're surviving. I'm done surviving. She met each of their gazes in turn. I spent 6 weeks hiding in the human district, terrified and alone, convincing myself I was better off without you. I'm not doing that again. If someone wants me dead, they can try, but I'm not making it easy for them. That's not your choice to make, Damon said. Yes, it is. Her voice went hard. These are my babies, my life, my choice, and I choose to fight. Something shifted in the air between them. The babies moved, both at once, a synchronized flutter that made Elena gasp. All 3 kings tracked the movement with predator focus. They're strong, Stefan whispered. I can feel them. Even without the bond, I can feel them. That's impossible, Cassian said, but he was staring at her stomach too. Nothing about this is possible. Damon took a step closer. Half-human omegas don't carry vampire children. Vampire kings don't survive severed bonds. And yet here we are. Here we are, Elena echoed. The torch flickered, dimming further. Damon glanced at it, then back at Elena. We need to move. That torch won't last much longer, and I'd rather not navigate these tunnels in complete darkness. Agreed. Cassian moved to gather their supplies. The catacomb exit is maybe 20 minutes from here if we move fast. I can't move fast, Elena reminded them. Pregnant, remember? Then we carry you. Stefan stepped forward, his hands hovering. If you'll let us. Elena wanted to say no. Wanted to maintain her independence, her anger, the wall she'd built between them. But her legs were shaking and the babies were heavy, and some practical part of her knew she wouldn't make it 20 minutes through dark tunnels on her own. Fine, she said, but if you drop me, I'm haunting all 3 of you. Stefan's smile was small but genuine. Deal. He scooped her up carefully, one arm under her knees, the other supporting her back. She tensed instinctively, but he didn't pull her close or hold her longer than necessary. Just lifted her like she weighed nothing and adjusted his grip until she was secure. Okay? He asked quietly. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice, because being in his arms felt like coming home, and that terrified her more than any assassin ever could. The tunnels smelled like centuries. Elena kept her arms around Stefan's neck, trying not to think about how natural it felt. How her body remembered the shape of him even after everything. How his scent, buried under dust and blood, still made something in her chest ache. Cassian led with the dying torch, its light barely enough to see 3 feet ahead. Damon brought up the rear, silent and watchful. The passage narrowed as they walked, forcing them single file. Stone scraped against stone somewhere in the darkness. Water dripped with rhythmic persistence. "How much further?" Elena asked. Her voice echoed strangely. 10 minutes, Cassian said. "Maybe less." Stefan's grip on her tightened as the floor sloped downward. "I've got you." "I know." The words slipped out before she could stop them. His step faltered, just for a second. Then he kept moving. They walked in silence, the torch growing dimmer with each passing minute. Elena could feel Stefan's heartbeat against her side, too fast, uneven. His hands trembled slightly where they held her. "You can put me down," she said quietly. "I can walk for a bit. I'm fine." "You're shaking." "I'm fine," he repeated, but his voice cracked on the second word. Elena twisted to look at his face. Even in the near darkness, she could see the strain there, the barely controlled desperation. "Stefan, I can't put you down." The words came out rough. "If I put you down, you'll walk away, and I can't watch you walk away again." Her breath caught. "That's not fair," she whispered. "I know." His arms tightened around her. "Nothing about this is fair. But feeling you here, solid and real and alive, is the only thing keeping me from falling apart. So please, let me hold you." Just for a little longer. Elena's throat burned. She should push him away. Should remind him that holding her didn't erase what he'd done, that physical proximity wasn't forgiveness. But the babies chose that moment to move, and Stefan felt it. He stopped walking entirely. "Was that—" His voice was barely audible. "Yes." "Can I?" His hand hovered over her stomach, not quite touching. "I said no before." "I know, but we're alone now. Just us and them in the dark. No politics, no kingdom, no council, just— Can I feel them, please?" Elena closed her eyes. This was dangerous. This was letting him in. This was cracking the armor she'd worked so hard to build. "One hand," she said finally. "That's it." Stefan's palm settled over her stomach with a reverence that made her chest hurt. His hand was warm, steady, covering the slight curve where their children grew. They waited. The babies, as if sensing their father's presence, moved again. A flutter, then a stronger push. Stefan made a sound she'd never heard from him before. Something between a laugh and a sob. "They're real," he breathed. "I knew they were real, but feeling them changes things," Elena finished. "Everything." His forehead dropped to her shoulder. "God, Elena, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I almost missed this, that I almost lost you both." "All 3 of them," she corrected softly. He went very still. "3? Triplets." She felt him shudder against her, like their fathers. "We're having 3 babies," wonder crept into his voice. 3. Apparently our genetics had opinions." He laughed, wet and broken, and held her closer. Not possessive, just holding. Like she was something precious he'd found after believing it was lost forever. "We should keep moving," Damon said from behind them. His voice was carefully neutral, but Elena heard the edge underneath. Stefan lifted his head. "Right. Sorry." He started walking again, but his hand stayed on her stomach. The torch sputtered. "Cassian," Damon warned. "I see it." Cassian picked up the pace. "We're close. The exit should be just ahead." The flame died. Darkness swallowed them whole. Elena's hand flew to Stefan's shoulder, gripping hard. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I've got you," Stefan said immediately. "Just breathe. I can't see anything. Neither can we." Cassian's voice came from ahead, steady despite the blackness. "But I remember the path. Damon, hand on my shoulder. Stefan, follow my voice." They moved like that, a chain in the dark. Elena buried her face against Stefan's neck, trying to control her breathing. The babies were restless now, picking up on her fear. "Talk to me," Stefan said quietly. Tell me something. Anything. Like what? Anything that's not about how terrified you are right now. Elena swallowed hard. I wanted to keep them from you. His step hitched. What? When I found out I was pregnant, the words tumbled out raw and honest. My first thought wasn't joy or fear, it was relief, because I finally had something you couldn't take from me. Something that was mine and only mine. Stefan's arms tightened around her. I was going to disappear, she continued. Take them somewhere you'd never find us. Raise them alone and tell them their fathers were dead. Would have been kinder than the truth, he said quietly. Maybe. She paused. But then I realized I didn't want them to grow up wondering. Didn't want them to have the same questions I had about my own father. Why he left. If he ever loved me. If I was the reason he couldn't stay. Your father left? When I was 6. The old wound barely even hurt anymore. My mother was human, he was vampire. The relationship was illegal at the time, but they didn't care. They thought love was enough. It wasn't, Stefan said. No. The council found out. Gave him a choice, his family and his status, or us. She felt Stefan's grip tighten. He chose them, walked away and never looked back. My mother told me he died, so I wouldn't spend my childhood waiting for him to come back. But you knew. I knew. Elena's hand covered his, where it still rested on her stomach. I knew. And I spent 20 years hating him for it, for choosing duty over love, for proving that I wasn't worth fighting for. Elena, his voice broke on her name. So when you did the same thing, she continued, when you stood there and voted to cast me out, all I could think was that I'd finally found people who chose me, who saw all my broken parts and loved me anyway, and then you proved I was wrong. Stefan stopped walking. Put me down, Elena said. We're in the middle of... Put me down. He lowered her carefully. Her feet found stone, solid and cold. She couldn't see him in the darkness, but she could feel him, the heat of him, the way his breath hitched. I need you to understand something, she said. I didn't come back because I forgive you. I came back because my children deserve better than I got. They deserve fathers who fight for them, who choose them, even if those fathers already proved they'll fail when it matters most. I won't fail them. Stefan's hand found her face in the dark, cupping her cheek with a gentleness that destroyed her. I won't fail you. Not again. I swear it. Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm not. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, tracing the path of a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I'm making the only promise I have left, that I will spend every day for the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you. Of them. Even if you never forgive me. Even if you hate me until the day I die. I will be the father they deserve, and the man you needed me to be. Stefan. Her voice cracked. I love you. The words fell into the space between them like stones into water. I loved you before the rejection. I loved you through it, and I'll love you after, whether you want me to or not. That's not a plea for forgiveness. It's just the truth. Elena's hand found his chest, feeling his heart race beneath her palm. She should push him away, should remind him that love wasn't enough, that her father had probably loved her too, and he'd still left. But in the dark, with his hand on her face and their children moving between them, she let herself have this. One moment of honesty. I loved you too, she whispered. Past tense. Don't ask me to love you again. I won't. His forehead touched hers, but I'll hope anyway. Behind them, Damon cleared his throat. When you're done having a moment, the exit is 10 feet ahead. Stefan huffed a laugh. Jealous? Profoundly. Elena pulled back, suddenly aware of how close they were. How easy it would be to close the distance between them, to let him kiss her the way she could feel him wanting to. She stepped away instead. Let's go, she said. Stefan picked her up again without a word. This time, when his arms came around her, it felt different, less like carrying and more like holding, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he let go. They reached the exit in silence. Light filtered through cracks in the stone above them. dawn, light, pale and cold and real. Cassian found the mechanism, and the ceiling section ground open. Fresh air rushed in, sharp with pine and frost. They climbed out into a forest clearing. Snow covered everything, pristine and untouched. The palace was visible in the distance, dark and silent. Elena slid from Stefan's arms, her boots sinking into snow. The cold bit through her clothes immediately. Damon was already scanning the tree line, his body tense and ready. Cassian moved to join him, both of them forming a protective barrier between her and the forest. "We need to keep moving," Damon said. "Get distance between us and the palace before—" He stopped. Elena turned to follow his gaze. Figures emerged from the trees. 10, maybe 15, all dressed in black, all armed, all moving toward them with purpose. "Run," Damon said quietly. "Where?" Elena looked around. Open snow in every direction, no cover, no escape. "Anywhere." Cassian drew his blade. "Just run." "I'm not leaving you. You're not leaving them." Stefan moved to stand with his brothers, forming a wall between her and the approaching assassins. "That's all that matters." The assassins stopped 20 feet away. One of them stepped forward. Female. Tall. Her face was covered, but her eyes were cold and familiar. "The half-blood bitch and her bastard kings," she said. "How convenient. We'll finish all of you at once." "You're welcome to try," Damon said. The woman laughed. "Oh, we won't have to." She gestured, and the assassins parted. A figure walked through them, older, distinguished, wearing robes that marked him as nobility. Elena's blood turned to ice. She knew that face. "Hello, daughter," her father said. "It's been a while." The world stopped. Elena couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stare at the man who'd walked out of her life 20 years ago and was now standing in a forest clearing with assassins at his back. "No," she whispered. Her father smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I see you've been busy, pregnant with royal bastards." "Your mother would be so proud." "Don't!" The word came out strangled. "Don't you dare talk about her." "Why not? I loved her once." He moved closer, and the king shifted, blocking his path. He stopped, amused. "Still playing protector? That's rich, considering you threw her away like garbage 6 weeks ago." "How do you know about that?" Damon demanded. "Because I arranged it." Her father's voice was pleasant, conversational. "The physician was expensive, but worth every coin. All those tests, all those lies, and you believed every word. It was almost too easy." Elena's legs nearly gave out. "You paid him to lie about me." "I paid him to save you from a fate worse than death." Her father's expression hardened. "Bonding with vampire royalty? Carrying their heirs? You would have been consumed by it. Used up and discarded the moment they had what they needed." "So you decided to discard me first?" Her voice rose. "You paid someone to declare me infertile, knowing they'd reject me, knowing it would break the bond and nearly kill me?" "I knew you'd survive. You're half human. The bond severance wouldn't be fatal." "It almost was." Cassian's voice was ice. "She bled out on our throne room floor. We thought she was dead." "But she wasn't." Her father spread his hands. "See, I was right. You tried to have me autopsied." Elena took a step forward, fury overriding fear. "The physician scheduled my body for dissection. Was that part of your plan too?" Something flickered in her father's eyes. "That was his initiative. I told him to make sure the rejection happened. What he did after was his own creative interpretation." "You're lying." "I'm protecting you." He looked at her stomach, and his expression twisted with something that might have been disgust. "Though I see I was too late. You've already let them ruin you." "Ruin me?" Elena's laugh was sharp. "I'm carrying 3 healthy babies. I'm the only viable carrier left in the entire vampire species. I'm not ruined. I'm a Elenical." "You're an abomination." Her father's mask slipped, revealing the hatred beneath. "Half-breeds shouldn't exist. I made that mistake once with your mother, and I won't watch you repeat it. Then look away. I can't. He gestured to the assassins. Because those babies you're carrying, they're going to save the vampire bloodlines, stabilize them, give them another 1,000 years of existence. I can't allow that. Understanding crashed over Elena like ice water. You want them extinct? She breathed. That's what this is about. You want the entire vampire species to die. I want balance restored. Her father's voice turned fervent. Vampires have ruled for too long. They've taken our lands, our resources, our people. They've bred with humans and created monsters like you. If they die out naturally, the world will finally be free of them. There are thousands of innocent people in that palace, Stefan said. Children, families, casualties of war. Her father didn't even blink. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary for the greater good. You're insane, Elena whispered. I'm a visionary. He took another step forward. The kings moved to intercept, but he raised his hand and the assassins drew weapons. Here's how this works. You come with me peacefully. We end the pregnancies humanely, and I let your kings live. They can rule over their dying kingdom until the last vampire crumbles to dust. Or, Damon asked, or we kill all of you right here. The babies die anyway, the bloodline ends, and I get what I want, regardless. Her father's smile was cold. Your choice. Elena's hand covered her stomach protectively. The babies were moving, agitated, as if they could sense the danger. You won't touch them, she said. I'm your father. You'll do what I say. You stopped being my father the day you walked away. Her voice shook with rage. You don't get to come back now and pretend you have any claim to me or my children. Those aren't children, they're parasites. Stefan moved so fast Elena barely saw it. One moment he was standing still. The next, his hand was around her father's throat, lifting him off the ground. Say that again, Stefan said softly. I dare you. The assassins surged forward. Damon and Cassian met them with brutal efficiency. Steel rang against steel. Bodies collided in the snow. Elena stumbled backward, trying to get clear of the fight, but there were too many of them. An assassin broke through the line, blade raised, coming straight for her. She couldn't run fast enough. The blade came down and stopped. Cassian was there, his arm bleeding where he'd blocked the strike. He twisted, disarmed the assassin, and drove his own blade home in one fluid motion. Stay behind me, he growled. Another assassin, then another. The clearing became chaos, blood on snow, violence and desperation in equal measure. Elena pressed herself against a tree, heart hammering, watching the three kings fight like demons to keep the assassins away from her. They were outnumbered 3-1. They were losing. Damon took a blade to the shoulder. Stefan was bleeding from a cut across his ribs. Cassian moved like he was already wounded, his left arm hanging wrong. And still they fought. Still they put themselves between her and death. Her father hit the ground, gasping, as Stefan released him. Kill her, he choked out to the assassins. I don't care how. Just kill her and the bastard she's carrying. No. The word tore from Elena's throat. She stepped away from the tree, straight into the fight. Elena, don't. Cassian tried to grab her, but she slipped past him. She walked toward her father, each step deliberate, and the assassins parted for her like she was something dangerous. Maybe she was. You want to kill me? She said. Fine. Do it yourself. Look me in the eyes and prove you're the monster you've become. Her father pushed himself up, one hand on his throat where Stefan had choked him. You think I won't? I think you've spent 20 years telling yourself you left because you loved me too much to stay. Elena stopped 3 feet away. I think you've built an entire identity around being the tragic father who sacrificed everything for his daughter's safety. But the truth is, you just didn't want me. You never did. And now you can't stand that someone else does. That's not, isn't it? She gestured to the kings behind her. They chose wrong. They hurt me. They nearly destroyed me. But they're here now, bleeding in the snow, because they'd rather die than let anyone harm me or our children. Where were you when I needed protection? when the bond broke and I was dying. Where were you then, father? He said nothing. You were probably celebrating, Elena continued, thinking your plan had worked, that I'd finally be free of the vampires you hate so much. It never occurred to you that I loved them, that being cast out broke more than just a bond. Love is weakness. No, she shook her head. Hate is weakness. It's consumed you so completely that you're willing to commit genocide, to murder your own daughter and grandchildren, just to satisfy your need for revenge. They're not my grandchildren. Her father's voice went cold. They're monsters. They're mine. Elena's hand pressed to her stomach, and you're not taking them from me. Then I'll take you all. He lunged, not at her, at the closest king, Damon. The blade appeared in her father's hand like magic, driving toward Damon's chest while he was still turning, still fighting off two assassins. Time slowed. Elena saw it happening, saw the angle, saw that Damon wouldn't move fast enough. She was moving before she could think, throwing herself between them. The blade punched into her side, cold, sharp, wrong. She gasped, stumbling, and her father's eyes went wide with shock. Elena! Damon caught her as she fell. No, no, no! The world tilted. Voices shouted. Someone was screaming. Maybe her. She couldn't tell anymore. Damon lowered her to the snow, his hands pressing against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. His face was white, terrified. Stay with me, he said. Elena, stay with me. Stefan and Cassian appeared, forming a wall around her. Both of them were saying something, but the words were just noise. Her father stood frozen, the bloody blade still in his hand. I didn't mean, he started. You never do. Elena's voice came out wet. That's your problem. You never mean to hurt people. You just do it anyway. We need to get her back to the palace, Cassian said. Now. She won't make it. Stefan's voice cracked. Look at her, she's bleeding out. She's survived worse. Damon pressed harder against the wound. His hands were shaking. She'll survive this. Will we? Elena asked. She could taste copper. Her vision was going gray at the edges. Will the babies? All three kings looked at her. They're fine, Damon lied. You're all fine. Liar. She tried to smile. It felt wrong. You're such a bad liar. Around them, the assassins were retreating, melting back into the forest. Her father stood alone now, weapon dropped, staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. I loved your mother, he said quietly. That part was true. But not me. Elena's hand found Damon's where it pressed against her side. You never loved me. I tried. That's not the same thing. He looked at her for a long moment, then turned and walked away. The snow swallowed him. Bastard, Stefan snarled. I'll kill him. I'll hunt him down and... later. Cassian pulled off his shirt, wadding it against Elena's wound. Right now, we save her. How? Stefan demanded. We're miles from the palace. She's bleeding out, and even if we had a physician, the blade could have hit. Don't. Damon's voice was stone. Don't finish that sentence. Elena's vision was fading. The babies had stopped moving. That scared her more than the blood. I'm sorry, she whispered. No. Damon leaned closer, his forehead touching hers. No apologies. You're not dying. I won't allow it. Not your choice. Then I'm making it my choice. His hand covered her stomach, and she felt warmth bloom where he touched. Magic. Raw and desperate and forbidden. I'm not losing you again. The bond is severed, Cassian said. You can't. Watch me. Power flooded through Elena like lightning. She screamed, or tried to. The sound came out choked. The world went white, then red, then black. And somewhere in that darkness she felt them. 3 presences, familiar and foreign all at once, reaching for her, binding themselves to her with threads of magic that shouldn't exist. The bond reformed, not the way it had been before, soft and gentle and chosen. This was violent, necessary. Born from desperation and blood, and 3 men who refused to let her go. It hurt worse than the blade. It hurt like dying and being reborn in the same breath. And when Elena opened her eyes, she could feel them, all three of them, inside her head, inside her heart, inside every cell of her body. The bond wasn't just reformed, it was absolute. Elena gasped, and the world came back in pieces, snow beneath her, blood on her clothes, three faces hovering above her, all of them etched with terror, and inside her chest, where there had been emptiness, now there was everything. She could feel Damon's guilt like shattered glass, cutting with every breath. Stefan's fear tasted like ash. Cassian's desperation burned hot enough to scar. "Get out!" she choked. "What?" Damon's hands were still pressed to her side, but the wound was closing. She could feel it knitting together, magic and flesh weaving impossibly fast. "Get out of my head!" She tried to push him away, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. "You had no right." "You were dying," his voice broke. "I had every right." "No." Tears burned her eyes. "You don't get to force a bond on me. Not after you broke the first one. Not after everything. I'm not apologizing for saving your life. You didn't save it." Elena finally managed to shove at his chest. "You claimed it. There's a difference." Cassian moved between them, his expression stricken. "Elena, we can break it again. If that's what you want, we can sever it the second you're stable." "Can you?" She looked at each of them, feeling their emotions bleeding into hers, mixing until she couldn't tell where she ended and they began. "Because this feels different. This feels permanent." "It is," Stefan said quietly. "What Damon did, bonding you while you were dying, while the babies were in distress, it created something stronger than a normal mate bond. It's a life bond. Unbreakable." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. "Unbreakable," Elena repeated. "So I'm stuck with you, forever, whether I want to be or not." "Yes." Damon met her gaze. "I'm sorry, but I'd do it again. I'd do it 1,000 times if it meant keeping you alive." "That's not romantic." Her voice shook. "That's ownership. It's love." He reached for her face, then stopped, his hand hovering. "Flawed and desperate and completely selfish. But it's love. Love doesn't take away choice. Neither does death." His hand dropped. "But I chose you living and hating me over you dead and gone. I chose wrong before. I won't make that mistake again." Elena pushed herself up, ignoring the way her side pulled. The wound was sealed, just a pink line on her skin where the blade had punched through. The babies fluttered, alive and agitated but whole. She could feel them now, really feel them. 3 distinct presences nestled inside her, connected to her and to the kings, through threads of magic that pulsed with every heartbeat. "I can feel them," she whispered. "I can feel the babies." "So can we." Cassian's hand hovered over her stomach. "They're scared, confused, but strong. God, Elena, they're so strong." "They're ours," Stefan added. His eyes were wet. "Really ours, not just genetically. We're bonded to them the same way we're bonded to you." The implications crashed over her. "You've tied yourselves to them," she said slowly. "If something happens to me, if I die, they die too." Damon's voice was flat. "And so do we. That's how life bonds work. We live together or we don't live at all. You've trapped us all." The anger was building now, hot and sharp. "You've made it so I can't leave, can't protect them from you, can't do anything without dragging all of you down with me." "Yes." The single word was unapologetic. Elena wanted to scream, wanted to rage at him for taking away the last shred of autonomy she had left. But underneath the anger, she could feel something else. Relief. Traitorous, shameful relief that she wasn't alone anymore, that the bond was back, filling the emptiness that had haunted her since the rejection. She hated herself for feeling it. "I hate you," she said. "I know." Damon stood, offering his hand. "But you're alive to hate me." "That's enough." She ignored his hand and pushed herself to her feet. Her legs shook, but held. The clearing was empty now. The assassins were gone. Her father was gone. Just blood in the snow and 3 kings who'd destroyed her twice and saved her once. "We need to get back to the palace," Cassian said. He was scanning the tree line, body tense. "Your father might have retreated, but he'll regroup. And now that he knows the bond is reformed, he'll be even more desperate. Let him be desperate." Elena started walking toward the palace, each step deliberate. "I'm done running from him. From anyone." "Elena." Stefan caught up to her. "You're hurt. You need rest." "I need answers." She didn't slow down. "Your head physician, where is he?" "We don't know," Damon said. "He disappeared after we sent guards to find him." "Then we find him." She pushed through the snow, her side aching but functional. "Because he's the only one who can tell us exactly what my father paid him to do. What other lies he told, what other traps he set." "And if he's already dead?" Cassian asked. "Then we find my father and make him talk." "He stabbed you." Stefan's voice was tight. "He tried to kill you and the babies. You want to confront him again?" "I want him to answer for what he's done." Elena stopped, turning to face them. "Not just to me. To every vampire in your kingdom who's dying because he sabotaged the one chance you had at survival. He's not just my problem. He's yours too." The 3 kings exchanged looks. Through the bond, she felt their wordless communication. Strategy and concern and something that felt like pride. "Fine," Damon said, "but we do this smart. We get you back to the palace, make sure you and the babies are stable, and then we hunt." "Together," Cassian added. "No more splitting up, no more secrets. We move as one or not at all." "Agreed." Stefan moved to her side, not touching but close enough to catch her if she fell. "But first, we need to talk about the bond." "There's nothing to talk about." "There's everything to talk about." He stepped in front of her, forcing her to stop. "You can feel us now. All of us. Our emotions, our thoughts, everything. That goes both ways. We can feel you too." "Wonderful." Her voice was bitter. "So now you get to know exactly how much I hate this." "We do." His hand lifted to her face, and this time she didn't pull away. "We can feel your anger, your fear, your sense of violation, but we can also feel something else." "Don't." "You're relieved," he continued softly. "Part of you is glad the bond is back. Part of you missed it." "That doesn't make this okay." "I know." His thumb brushed her cheek. "But it means there's hope. That maybe, eventually, you'll forgive us. Not because you have to, but because part of you still wants to." Elena's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, wanted to shove him away and prove that the relief she felt was just biology, just the bond manipulating her emotions. But she could feel his hope through the connection, raw and painful and so desperate it made her chest ache. She could feel all 3 of them, actually, their love for her, twisted and flawed but real. Their love for the babies, fierce and immediate. Their determination to be better, to earn what they'd stolen. It didn't fix anything, but it was something. "We should keep moving," she said quietly. Stefan nodded and stepped back. They walked in silence, the palace growing larger with each step. Servants were visible in the windows now, cleaning up from the attack. Guards patrolled the grounds. Life was returning to normal. Except nothing was normal anymore. Elena could feel the bond pulsing with every heartbeat, tying her to 3 men she wasn't sure she could trust. 3 men who'd proven they'd choose wrong when pressured. 3 men who'd also just bound themselves to her so completely that losing her meant losing everything. It was insane. It was irreversible. And some part of her, the part she refused to acknowledge out loud, was grateful for it. They reached the palace gates. The guards bowed, their eyes widening at the blood covering all of them. "Send for the physician," Damon commanded. "The new one. I want Elena and the babies examined immediately." "The head physician is in the throne room, Your Majesty," one guard said. "He returned an hour ago, said he had information about the attacks." Elena and the king stopped. "He came back?" Cassian's voice was dangerous. "Voluntarily?" "Yes, sire, he's waiting for you." They exchanged looks. Trap, Stefan said. Obviously, Damon agreed. Then we spring it. Elena started toward the throne room. Together. They followed her through the halls, 3 predators at her back. She could feel their readiness through the bond, the way they were prepared to destroy anything that threatened her. It should have been suffocating. Instead, it felt like safety. The throne room doors were closed. 2 guards stood at attention. Is he alone? Damon asked. Yes, Your Majesty. He insisted on waiting for your return. Open the doors. The guards obeyed. The throne room was exactly as Elena remembered. High ceilings, blood-red carpet, 3 thrones arranged in a semicircle, and standing in the center, looking small and old and terrified, was the head physician. He turned as they entered. Your Majesties, he said, his voice shaking. Lady Elena, I've come to confess. Elena's hand found her stomach. Then talk. I was paid to lie about your fertility. The words tumbled out fast. A vampire noble approached me 6 months ago, offered me more gold than I'd see in 10 lifetimes if I ensured the bond between you and the kings never happened. Who? Damon demanded. I don't know. He wore a mask. But he knew things, private things about the royal family. He knew you were looking for a mate, knew you'd found Lady Elena, and he wanted her gone. So you falsified the tests, Cassian said. Yes, all of them. I made it look like she was incompatible, infertile, dangerous to bond with. And when that didn't work fast enough, when you started to have doubts, he contacted me again. The physician's face crumpled. He told me to declare her dead and dispose of the body, make it look like the bond severance was fatal. But she wasn't dead, Stefan said. I know. Tears streaked the physician's face. I know, and I scheduled the autopsy anyway because I was a coward who wanted the gold more than I wanted to do the right thing. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Elena stared at him, this pathetic old man who'd nearly destroyed everything. Who was he working for? She asked. The masked noble. Who sent him? I told you, I don't know. But he said something once when he was paying me. He said, the half-breeds have poisoned us long enough. Like he blamed mixed-blood vampires for the species' decline. My father, Elena said. The pieces clicked into place. He sent the noble, probably someone sympathetic to his cause, someone who wanted vampires extinct as much as he did. Your father? The physician looked confused. Your father is human, and he hates vampires enough to commit genocide. She turned to the kings. We need to find him, before he tries again. Agreed. Damon nodded to the guards. Take the physician to the dungeons. We'll decide his fate after we've dealt with the larger threat. The physician didn't resist as they led him away. Elena watched him go, feeling empty. Are you all right? Cassian asked quietly. No. She looked at him. But I will be, after we end this. Then let's end it, Damon said. They moved as one toward the war room, and through the bond, Elena felt their shared determination. This time, they wouldn't fail. This time, they'd choose right. Together. The war room map was spread across the table, marked with locations where her father had been spotted, but Elena couldn't focus on strategy, because through the bond, she felt something shift. Not in the kings, in the babies. All 3 of them moved at once, a synchronized flutter that stole her breath. Elena? Stefan was at her side immediately. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Her hand pressed to her stomach, and she felt them again. Stronger this time. They're saying hello. The 3 kings went still. Can we? Cassian asked, his voice hushed. Can we feel them too? Elena closed her eyes, reaching through the bond. It was still new, still raw, but she found the threads connecting them all. She pulled, gently opening the connection wider. The kings gasped in unison. Oh, Damon breathed. Oh, they're perfect, Stefan finished. They're perfect. Through the bond, Elena felt their wonder. their love, their absolute awe at these three tiny lives they'd created together. And underneath it, she felt their fear. Fear that they'd fail as fathers the way they'd failed as mates. Fear that their children would grow up knowing their fathers had once chosen duty over love. Fear that no amount of trying would ever be enough to earn forgiveness for what they'd done. Elena opened her eyes. The three kings stood around her, all of them touching her stomach now, their faces open and vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before. "You're terrified," she said softly. Damon's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Good." She covered his hand with hers. "You should be. Parenting is terrifying. Love is terrifying. Choosing people over power is the most terrifying thing you'll ever do." "We know," Cassian said. "We learned that the hard way." "Then don't forget it." Elena looked at each of them. "Don't ever let duty make you forget that the people you love are worth more than any kingdom, any throne, any title." "We won't," Stefan promised. "Never again." Through the bond, she felt his certainty, felt all three of them making that vow not just to her, but to the babies, to themselves. It still didn't fix what they'd broken, but it was a start. "My father," Elena said, pulling their attention back to the map. "We need to stop him before he hurts anyone else." "We will." Damon's hand left her stomach, moving to the marked locations. "He's been spotted here, in the neutral territories. If we move fast—" "No." Elena shook her head. "We don't chase him. We let him come to us." "That's too dangerous," Cassian protested. "It's the only way." She traced a line on the map. "He wants me dead, wants the babies dead. He'll come for us eventually. Better it happens on our terms, in a place we control." "You want to use yourself as bait," Damon said flatly. "I want to end this." Elena met his gaze. "Not just for us. For every vampire in this kingdom who's dying because of his hatred. For our children, so they don't grow up with a target on their backs." The kings were silent. Then Stefan nodded. "We set a trap. Lure him here. Make him think he has the advantage." "And when he takes it?" Cassian asked. "We finish this," Damon said. "Permanently." They spent the next minutes planning, every detail, every contingency, every possible outcome. But as they worked, Elena felt something else building through the bond. Trust. They were listening to her. Really listening, not dismissing her ideas or trying to protect her from the hard decisions. They were treating her as an equal. It was such a small thing, such an obvious thing. But after everything, it meant the world. The plan was simple. Spread word that Elena was weak, vulnerable, recovering from her wound in the East Wing. Her father would come. And when he did, they'd be ready. "It could work," Cassian said finally, "if he's desperate enough." "He's desperate," Elena said. "I felt it in the forest." "He's not just trying to stop the vampire bloodlines. He's trying to stop me from proving him wrong. From proving that love between species isn't weakness." "Then we prove him wrong together," Damon said. The word hung between them. Together. Elena's throat tightened. 6 weeks ago she'd been alone, cast out, bleeding in an alley with no one to catch her. Now she had 3 men bound to her soul, 3 babies growing inside her, and a future that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. It wasn't perfect. They weren't perfect. But looking at them now, feeling their determination and love and desperate hope through the bond, she thought maybe perfect was overrated. Maybe broken things could be beautiful too. "Okay," she said softly. "Together." The babies moved again, as if agreeing, and for the first time since the rejection, Elena let herself smile. Really smile. Stefan noticed first. His eyes went wide. "You're smiling." "Don't make it weird." Too late. He crossed to her, his hands finding her face with a gentleness that destroyed her. "I've missed that smile. I've missed having a reason to use it." "We'll give you 1,000 reasons," Cassian said, joining them. Every day, for the rest of our lives. That's a lot of pressure, Elena said, but she was still smiling. We can handle it. Damon moved closer, completing their circle. Question is, can you handle us? She looked at each of them. These three men who'd broken her heart and bound their souls to hers. Who'd chosen wrong and were spending every moment trying to choose right. Who loved her with a desperation that should have been terrifying but somehow just felt like home. I guess we'll find out, she said. And then, because she was tired of fighting it, tired of pretending the bond didn't matter, she reached up and pulled Stefan down into a kiss. He froze for a heartbeat, then kissed her back like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cassian was grinning. Does this mean we're forgiven? He asked. No. Elena turned to him. But it means I'm willing to try. To see if we can build something better than what we had before. We will, Damon promised. Whatever it takes. Starting with my father, Elena said. We end this threat. We protect our family, and then we figure out how to be a family, Stefan finished. All 6 of us. The babies fluttered in agreement. Elena felt tears burning behind her eyes, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from hope. Fragile, terrifying, beautiful hope. All 6 of us, she repeated, and as the 3 kings pulled her into an embrace, careful of her stomach, careful of her wounds, careful of her heart, Elena let herself believe it. Let herself believe that broken things could heal, that people who chose wrong could learn to choose right, that love, even when it was messy and complicated and born from desperation, could be enough. The bond pulsed between them, warm and steady and unbreakable. Not a cage, a tether, keeping them all connected, keeping them all safe, keeping them all home. Outside, snow began to fall again, covering the blood-stained clearing in pristine white. A clean slate, a new beginning, and in the palace, surrounded by 3 men who'd destroyed her and saved her in equal measure, carrying 3 babies who would never doubt they were wanted, Elena finally let herself breathe, let herself rest, let herself trust that this time, when they promised forever, they meant it. The bond hummed with their shared certainty. They would face her father, they would protect their kingdom, they would stumble and fail and pick each other up again, but they would do it together, all 6 of them. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. I love you, Stefan whispered against her hair. I never stopped. I know, Elena said. I can feel it. We all can, Cassian added, his hand covering hers on her stomach. That's the beauty of the bond. No more secrets, no more lies. Just us, completely honest, for better or worse. Mostly better, Damon said, pressing a kiss to her temple. From now on. Elena closed her eyes and let their love wash over her through the bond. It didn't erase the past, but it gave her a future worth fighting for. And as their children moved beneath her heart, recognizing their father's touches, their voices, their love, Elena knew one thing with absolute certainty. They would be okay. All of them. Together. Thank you for watching. Next story drops soon.